So you want to take a motorbike around West Malaysia. I'm going to show you where to go and what you cannot miss and what you can miss, more importantly. So let's say you want to start in Kuala Lumpur. You can also base yourself out of Penang. I think a big key decision is the fact that you should probably not combine these two in one trip. I mentioned this in another video, and that's because you're probably going to end up having to take, you can meander all throughout this area, and it's great, but you're probably going to end up taking AH2, the highway, between on your very last day home. And it's basically just one giant day of pretty bad riding. It's not very fun. If it's raining or windy, it's just really not ideal for a trip. That's why I would suggest either doing a motorbike loop based out of Penang up here in the north and maybe loop in Ipoh and then come back to Penang, or you start in KL in Kuala Lumpur, do a little bit of a loop, maybe go south. I didn't go down here to Malacca, but that's something I'd like to do in the future. And then base yourself out of here. So I'll show you what I did and kind of the top highlights. First things first is the Genting Highlands. A lot of people mention this. It's supposedly kind of over touristed. However, it does have nice windy roads here. So if that's what you're looking for, you're in luck, and it's the closest thing to Kuala Lumpur. The other thing you can include and make a little loop out of this is Fraser's Hill. Also very loopy. I would say this is cooler. There's some trekking available. There's some activities you can do up here, which is pretty nice. Staying there can be expensive. You can, to offset that, stay up here in Raub. That's where I stayed. It's a nice, quiet little town. I then kept going up to Taman Negara. It's one of the oldest forests in the world, and you can do some really cool trekking there. There's a jungle canopy walk up in the trees, which is pretty interesting. It's an hour to get in and out of here. It's kind of way off the beaten path. However, and it was all palm plantation basically. But however, this route right here, 234, 235 to 102 into the Cameron Highlands, I'll get to that in a minute, but this route right here was the best ride that I experienced in my trip. It was big, long curves. I was crushing it, crushing curves at like 120 kilometers per hour. It was great. It's very fun. And then you end up in the Cameron Highlands, which is pretty cool as well. Also very curvy roads. Honestly, I gotta say, very touristy. I would probably, especially if it's the weekend, skip it. And I mean that earnestly. It's just very busy. The road quality isn't terrific either. I think there's better options. If you're gonna put this into a loop, do it during the week, but don't come on the weekend. There was traffic in and out of these towns to the point in which, had I not been on a motorcycle, it would have just been completely ruined the weekend. Then I came into Ipoh and went up to Penang. Another option you can do is loop up here. There's some interesting loops here that are supposed to be pretty good. I just took the highway, unfortunately, due to time. I'll give a shout out to just doing a motorbike loop around Penang Island. That's pretty nice. And then I just made my way back down to Kuala Lumpur. Again, this AH2 highway, I would skip it if you can and avoid it. If you do run into hazardous conditions at all, I was getting really, really heavy rain. A lot of people were pulling over. I just lost all the visibility. I couldn't see anything. So I eventually got off on Route 1 and it was flooded. So I took that for a little bit and then it got better as I kept going south. So it worked out. The other thing I'll mention is this area down here. It's supposed to be really nice, kind of flat rice paddy type areas. If you've ridden a motorbike in like Bali or parts of Vietnam, maybe that's not as impressive, but a lot of people mention that this is a beautiful area. I didn't have time for that. Obviously there's some loops you can do down here. I would have loved to make it to Malacca, and there's some really good riding around in this area. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of a primer. Like I said, the key lesson, I think, do a loop out of and into KL. Don't go up all the way to Penang. You're gonna put yourself on this highway. It's not gonna be great. Or base yourself in Penang for your trip as well. Happy riding, and let me know if you have questions in the comments below.